to my channel. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. So I've been looking through our favorite podcasters' documents and filings and court filings and cases and everything all the way. I looked into LA, I looked into his federal cases, and that podcaster is Bricc, not the trick, also known as Shitro and all sorts of other names. And I found some interesting stuff. Of course, people are going to hype their charges. People are going to hype, what they've been through and their stories. One thing that I did find interesting about Bricc situation is that his indictment is still sealed. All right. As you guys can see here, his indictment is still sealed. So you can't open and see what he's indicted for. Now, it's alleged to have something to do with the firearm they found in his home. Apparently, they found an AK-47 on him in his home, and that's what this indictment is about. But really, you can't know because it's sealed. Now, we know there's some connection to the 60s indictment, the Big U indictment, and the connection there is that they're using the same wiretap. And so they're using the same evidence for both these cases, right? Because they're relying on this information that came through a wiretap. And that's how these cases are connected. And also that they're part of the same organization, the 60s rolling, neighborhood 60s rolling Crips, or however you say it, And so that's where there's a connection. But Bricc himself is not part of the Big U indictment. Is just that they're using the same evidence. They're using the same wiretap that they used on Big U. That's where they got the information related to this indictment on Bricc. And what it seems to be the case, why it's still under seal, is because there's actually maybe other people who they're still investigating and they're still trying to build that case, or there's other individuals who are fugitives who do not want to come up in their case, or they may still be investigating people who were related to this case, related to these guns that eventually landed in the hands of Bricc. Now, let's get into Bricc, right? Bricc himself is in deep shit. I mean, you guys have all seen this. I'm pretty sure it's the motion, the memorandum in opposition. It's where all that stuff was exposed about him pointing guns at his wife who was holding their daughter and all the rest of that. This is the prosecutor presenting evidence to try to keep him in jail. But yeah, okay, so let's go through this introduction because this gives us some of the information related to his case. So defendant Zahir Mitchell asked this court to be released, blah, blah, blah. To the contrary, okay, so he's arguing that a secured property bond is sufficient to reasonably assure his appearance and the safety of any other person or the community. To the contrary, defendant's criminal history shows a dedication to crime and recidivism no matter what the consequences. Moreover, his conduct during the investigation in this case, which we don't know. What is this case? The indictment is still sealed. Shows the same dedication to a life of crime and inability to comply with the rule of law. The indictment first alleges that defendant, in shooting at individuals, okay, so we're getting some exposure to what's in the indictment. Okay, this has to do with a shooting. It's not just him being in possession of a firearm. It has to do with a shooting. This indictment first alleges that defendant, in shooting at individuals, possessed ammunition expelled from a firearm on July 12, 2022. Okay, so Bricc is allegedly shooting at motherfuckers, all right? Then on June 21st, 2023, defendant was captured on an intercepted call arguing with his significant other, in which she repeatedly recounted that defendant had pointed a gun at her while she was holding his infant child. Bricc. Execution of a search warrant at defendant's home followed, and 3 firearms, including an AK-47 style gun and over 125 rounds of ammunition, were found. Okay. So, from what we can tell, the indictment is not related to this firearm. It's related to some kind of shooting that occurred. Additionally, they heard this call where his wife is talking about, well, his significant other is talking about him pointing a gun at her repeatedly while she's holding the infant child, and that led to because they're on the wire, they're hearing this, and they got on the wire because they were looking into Big U and the Rolling 60s enterprise as a whole. And so through that, they got a wire somehow. Bricc Baby got involved in that investigation. And through that, they got a wire on Bricc Baby's phone where he's heard, they hear the wife saying that he pointed a gun at her and the child. Then they executed a search warrant at defendant's home, and they found 3 firearms, including an AK-47 style gun. Oh my God. Do you guys hear this? Bricc Baby is already a felon, alright? You can get up to 10 years for being a felon with a firearm, alright? So Bricc Baby is already a felon, and he doesn't only have 1 firearm in his possession in his home, but 3, including an AK-47 style gun. I mean, that is trouble for Bricc Baby. And then after law enforcement seized those weapons and arrested defendant, he continued undeterred. In March 2024, defendant erupted at his place of employment, threatening individuals in the room and online with death, fighting security, and later admitting to possessing a firearm during that incident. Bro, they are watching the podcast. I mean, that is established. They are thoroughly watching the podcast. Throughout 2024, defendant made claims online of murdering people and threatening to do the same to others. We know he's always saying that. Then on March 18, 2025, the day before his arrest in this case, defendant went on live video podcast with someone who had previously threatened to kill, Loose Cannon. During the podcast, sitting across from that person, defendant brandished a firearm in his waistband. We've all seen that video where he shows his firearm to Loose Cannon. He pretends to be stretching, but really he's just trying to show his gun. When defendant was arrested the following day, an unsecured firearm with multiple magazines of live ammunition matching that seen in defendant's waistband on the podcast were found where defendant was staying with his young child. All right, guys, look. I mean, are you guys seeing this? How the fuck is he on the streets? How the fuck is he on the streets, man? What were the feds waiting for? You know? Bricc Baby is in deep trouble. There is absolutely no way. There's no way that Bricc Baby can get out of this. Unless there has to be a few things. First of all, that evidence as far as the wiretap has to be thrown out. So if that evidence gets thrown out, everything that came from that, if they say that that was illegal, if the court decides that that wiretap was illegal, everything that came from that has to get thrown out. All right? But that does not stop a video of you holding a firearm and then getting arrested with that firearm. I mean, you are a felon, guys. When you're a felon, having a firearm can lead to serious consequences, years in prison, guys, just like Crip Mac. Crip Mac is right now doing, from what I heard, 6 years in prison for having 1 pistol, right? This guy, Bricc Baby, has been caught with multiple pistols, at least 4 in just what we read. He's been caught with at least 4 pistols. I mean, are you crazy? I just don't see how there's any chance of him getting out of this. And so Bricc Baby is likely looking at doing serious time. And now Bricc Baby, from what I heard through the podcasts, Bricc Baby has like 5 children. He has 5 children. He has a wife. She seems to be young because she seems to be vulnerable to his bullshit. He keeps throwing 60s and saying all sorts of stupid shit. Here it is, all right? You pulled a gun out on me with your daughter. You pulled a gun out on me in front of your fucking daughter. You pointed a gun at me with your bitch ass. Defendant responds. Bricc Baby responds, I don't give a fuck, N-word. I don't give a fuck, bitch. Ever since I've been with you. Okay, so take the fucking baby outside, you stupid bitch. You sit in the house all day, you dumbass hoe. Damn. Defendant respond, man, on 6-0, shut the fuck up, bitch. I just told you, N-word. You keep playing with an N-word. You just want to see an N-word. Yeah, okay, so, man, what the fuck, dude? What the fuck? Never mind all his personal family trouble and family problems and how he behaves with his wife, although that's bad as well. And that alone, I mean, pointing a gun is certainly domestic violence and stuff like that, you know? But the more important thing is this dude is facing multiple, at the very least, multiple gun charges, you know? I just don't understand how he thinks he could ever get up from under this. You know, he's going to have to do serious time. A man with 5 kids at least, you know, 5 kids, different baby mothers, a new wife, I think. He's going to have to, how the hell do you get up under this? You cannot, man. They have so much evidence against you. The way you were behaving is so reckless. It's unbelievable, considering that you have children, considering that you have a career, considering that your podcast is popping. All this shit is unbelievable, guys. And he was born, I think it's 89 or 88. So, I think it's 88. I think he was born in 88. So, he's what? What are we now? 20. So, 25 plus 12. So, he's 37 years old, guys. Bricc Baby is 37 years old, and this is still how he's behaving. The guy is almost 40 years old, guys, and this is still how he's behaving. He's taking ridiculous risks. I just cannot believe that someone could take these kind of risks knowing that you have previously been arrested multiple times for guns. You've been arrested. You know they're investigating you. Why would you take on these kind of risks? And I think it's from that people start to speculate and say, hey, maybe Bricc Baby was snitching. You know, it's from that people start to think, all right, how the fuck can someone be this obnoxious? You know, and then never mind that, how the hell will you ever get up from under this? You know, one gun charge got Crip Mac 6 years or something, you know, in federal prison. You've been caught with an AK-47, multiple guns, and because the indictment is sealed, I'm thinking that it's going to be bigger than just, oh, you're in possession of a firearm, you know? I'm thinking it's going to be much bigger than, oh, you're just in possession of a firearm. I think in reality, he's going to be involved in the transactions that occurred regarding those firearms. Apparently, those are either like stolen firearms or firearms bought in Texas or somewhere in the South, and they're brought to LA, and they're going to involve him in this larger indictment regarding these firearm transactions. But that is why, guys, Bricc Baby needs to snitch. You're already in your 40s, bro. You got a career, you got a name. If he snitches, right, and he's back on the streets as soon as possible, he can go and do podcasts. He can go and do... People don't care, bro. You think the No Jumper crowd care? Oh, no, Bricc Baby snitched. We'd want to hear those stories, right? So it's like people don't even really care about Bricc Baby snitching, you know? He should snitch. He should do whatever he can to help the authorities and get himself out of this goddamn mess. You're almost 40 years old. You have 5 children. You have an infant child. And you got a career going. I mean, he can go out there and just do a year of doing all those interviews, Cam Capone and blah, 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 and probably stack a decent amount of money, start a YouTube channel, continue to podcast stuff, and nobody's going to do nothing to him. You know, especially if they realize he's an informant. Are people really going to touch him? I mean, how many informants are there out there on YouTube and all over the place who are evidently informants? You know, you have so much to lose. You're almost a 40-year-old man. You've been caught with multiple firearms. I mean, it's crazy, you know? What do you guys think? You know, should he snitch? Should he stay solid? What about his children? What about his wife? What about his career? He's sitting in there rotting away, and the stories that are coming out are, oh, there's a dispute because he happened to go ask a transgender for hair oil or hair grease or whatever. I mean, bro, you're 37 years old, bro. You cannot be dealing with this kind of nonsense, man. You got one of the biggest opportunities. You're in front of hundreds of thousands of people regularly. You're able to speak. You can capitalize. You can do whatever you need to do, for your career and provide a good life for yourself and your children. And apparently he takes care of other people's children too. So it's just so much risk. He's losing so much by being in this situation at the moment, and that's why I think, as I think many of you will agree with me who don't care about that nonsense street shit, bro, you need to snitch. Get yourself out of this. Improve the circumstances for your children, for your family, and come back to the world, man. Do your podcast, it's an entertaining. He's an entertaining dude. He gave us stories, detailed accounts of different interactions, exposures that we never got, we've never been that exposed to, about the reality of what it's like being around these rappers, being in that Atlanta scene, being in LA, being a 60, being part of the Crips, being part of a gangbangers in LA, growing up out there. He understands the culture. He gives so much insight, and he added so much to the No Jumper podcast. He is certainly missed. And more importantly than all that nonsense, I'm sure his children miss him. I'm sure his children need him. I'm sure his family misses him, And I just think that he shouldn't. What are you keeping solid for, bro? With the kind of charges you're facing, you might have to do a decade or more. And if you don't come out, it's like you might have to do a decade or more in federal prison, where apparently they require 80% of the time served, even on good time. So you have to serve 80% of the time, bro. You're going to come out, you're almost 50 years old, bro. You're almost 50-something years old. You don't know what's going on under the world. You don't know if No Jumper is still there. You don't know what you're coming back to, man. And that's really what I'm trying to get across, So Bricc Baby absolutely needs to snitch. And if you guys agree with me, let me know in the comments. If you disagree, let me know. If you got any other videos you'd like me to make, documents you'd like me to search up. I do have all his LA charges going back to 2012, in California. So I do have all those charges we can look into, but I can't get a lot of documents because it's not federal. So it's a state, and so it's hard to get the actual the meat and potatoes. You just get summaries of what he's been charged with. He's been charged with a robbery. I saw that, a bunch of other nonsense. But man, he had it going for him. He's on No Jumper. He's well respected, at least by the fan base. They really appreciate his presence. He's always adding something. He's entertaining. And sadly, this is how it went, when you live that kind of lifestyle. I mean, the 60s have destroyed Bricc Baby. Even at 37 years old, man, where he had it going on, the 60s have destroyed Bricc Baby, man. And I just think he should snitch, man. Who gives a fuck? Nobody gives a shit, Bricc. The 60s are over, bro. They took Big U down. Who cares about some freaking gangbangers in the streets and what they think of you? Who gives a shit? These assholes, they likely, the majority of them, are going to end up spending their life in a prison cell with another man, having to smell his farts, having to take poops. It's like living in a bathroom, bruh. It's like putting a bunk bed in a bathroom and having to spend your time in there with another man. That's all I'm saying, bruh. Free the Bricc. Free Bricc Baby, man. I hope he figures it out. I hope there's something I can't see. I hope there's something I don't know, that could really... Because from what it looks like, this dude is not coming home, man. It looks like serious prison time, Free Bricc Baby. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know how I can improve. Sound quality, everything. I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you.